We will start in about 1 or 2 minutes to let some of the other people basically log in. You're in the right place. Society of Cost Engineers webinar. We'll wait about 30 seconds more, then we'll get going. You're in the right place. Society of Cost Engineers webinar. Okay, let's get going. My name is Gary Kokens. I'll be the moderator for this event. It's hosted by or sponsored by actually hosted by the Society of Cost Engineers. If you are not a member, feel free to basically just do a search, get to us, and you can basically join from there. Today, the webinar will be from 3C Software. The title is The Cost of Not Costing Right. Here's some of the introduction and material. Now more than ever, it is important to have all your product costing, quoting, and pricing processes established in your organization. So this presentation by Adrian Rachowski will discuss, quote, having the right data in the right place, applying the right business logic on how to calculate cost and profit margins, and how it supports making better data-driven decisions for your organization. So, quick bio about Adrian. Adrian is the head of sales and solution leader for 3C Software, a leading provider of product cost, quoting, and profitability solutions. He is a hands-on experienced finance executive, as well as CXO advisor and product costing expert with passion for lean process building through technology. He has successfully designed and implemented costing, quoting, and profitability architecture at many Fortune 500 companies worldwide. I didn't introduce myself, just briefly. Gary Kokens, 40 years in consulting with Deloitte, KPMG, EDS, and then 16 years with SAS, the large analytic software vendor. Undergraduate, 1971, Cornell University, Industrial Engineering, Operations Research, Northwestern University, MBA from Kellogg. If you're doing the math, I'm 74 years old, but I feel like 44. So Adrian, add a little more to your bio and the show is now yours.
Yeah, thank you, Gary. I think that was the most the best introduction I've ever had. I wish my kids would greet me like this when they come home from school. That was fantastic. I appreciate it. Thank you, Gary, for introducing me, and thank you, Jerry Collins, for putting this together in the Society of Cost Engineering. As Gary said, it's a great group to join, and there's a lot of knowledgeable facts and information out there. It's a great community, an active community, where you can. It's a great resource to learn more about cost engineering. So I can only recommend it. All right, let's talk a little bit about the cost of not costing right. The connection between costing and pricing, right, can mean a lot of things. So let's talk a little bit about the elephant in the room, why you can't afford to not cost right. Right, that's really the question. Right? There's a high cost of not costing right, but let's talk a little bit of the bigger picture of why you cannot afford to not cost right in today's world. Number one, as we all know, the world right now, where it is in its stage, is a VUCA environment. And VUCA basically stands for volatility. It's a very volatile environment. It's a very uncertain environment. It's a more complex environment than ever before. And there's a lot of ambiguity in today's world, and it makes it very fast-paced, very dynamic, very uncertain, very volatile. It's a very hard world to operate in, and it's also a world that we operate as we never seen before, and it's changing at a pace that we've never seen before, right? The other reason why you cannot afford not to cost right is the amount of intense competition that is out there. So there's a lot of pressure on in the market out there to number one, innovate and come up with reduce your cost, improve your margins, negotiate with your resources, negotiate with your suppliers. There's a lot of pressure right now in this environment, coming from the market, coming from competitors, coming from internally in your company, and it's not going anywhere. The pressure just keeps on rising. The third reason for why now it is more important to cost right than ever is, as we see, there's a lot of pressure on constant and accelerating innovation. The keeping up with the Joneses, the new technology innovations that drive new products, new innovations, interconnected products. So there's need for speed of going to market with the right product, with the right fit at the right time is just immense today, and really companies differentiate themselves if they are able to do it right. It's very, very difficult to do nowadays, right? And of course, as we all know, this is ever-changing business, legal, and geopolitical environment that we live in. Supply chain crisis the last couple of years, of course, is a good example of the political and regulatory changes that are being put in now. Things and factors are being put in place to make sure that business can keep up with the fast-paced environment that didn't exist 5, 6, 7 years ago, right? So we kind of learn from it. We're putting measures in place and factors in place and regulatory things in place to now make sure that we are equipped to what we have learned and painfully set through the last couple of years as well. So, but when you look at all these factors, one thing points out to me, these are all potential sources for leaking margins, be it from your cost side or be it from your pricing side, right? I think everybody will agree with that. And there's a lot of factors come to play, be it from sourcing components of parts or products, be it from making the products, be it from delivering products to the customer, right? If you look across all these 4 factors, there's a lot of volatility and a lot of potential for what we call margin leakages in all these areas. So it's quite simple, as we all know. All we need to do is we need to do good costing work, sell our products for more than it costs to source, make, and provide them to our customers, and automatically we're more profitable. Sounds super simple, right? It is super simple, sounds simple. As we all know, it is not that simple. Actually, it's quite difficult, right? It is difficult, and there's a bunch of reasons, and I want to touch on 3 reasons today why it is not as easy as we all know. Number one, costing is a calculation, pricing is a decision. So when you as a business come up with some cost and then you try to come up with some quotes to establish some pricing procedures, right? There is a lot of data, a lot of people that are involved, a lot of opinions involved, a lot of methodology, different methodologies that can be involved, right? But at the end of the day, I want to make this distinguishment between that calculation by costing by nature is a calculation, and pricing at the end of the day is a decision that is made by a certain amount of people, right? And then, of course, the expectation is you need to simulate all potential outcomes at any point in time. What happens if I can reduce my cost? What happens to my price? What happens to my margin? Right. So 3 factors: costing. We're going to talk about costing a little bit. We're going to talk about pricing, and then we're going to talk about the need for simulations in today's world that we're talking about. We can understand cost, right? And cost is something, again, it's a calculation. There's a lot of data, a lot of technology out there that we can utilize, right? So the cost to source, make, deliver, serve my customers, serve my markets, right? All these things we can understand through leveraging technology, using some of what exists in our company is the tribal knowledge, using some smart insights, be it from internally talking to people, or be it externally looking at trends in the market that we see, or logistical trends, right? And we can, and combined with a good costing methodology, we can calculate costs and we can understand costs in a pretty good way, right? There's technology out there, such as what we do at 3C Software, that makes it much more easier, much more transparent to understand what our true product costs are, in order to determine what does it cost me to source, make, deliver, and serve my customers. All right. 3 items that I want to highlight that actually last week when I was at a client came and said, hey, Adrian, we understand how much does it cost us to source. We understand how much does it cost us to make and deliver. We are struggling in this area of what costs are incurred by customer requirements that are constantly changing. We are struggling to understand what costs are incurred by certain customer behavior. And we really need to understand what costs are incurred by our competitors or market conditions as they continuously change, right? And how can we now start doing some simulation work on how is this going to impact my cost? How is this going to impact my price? How is it going to impact my margin with my customers, in my channels, in my products, you name it, right? So costing, what we have seen in the last about 5-7 years is it's evolving much further from just the cost of source and make to really towards, okay, what does it truly cost me to serve my customer from an end-to-end perspective, right? So in a nutshell, really nothing new to this group, right? Cost must be calculated in a sophisticated way, not only through an accounting lens or sense, but in a behavioral sense, right? How does my company behave, and what does my company behavior drive in terms of cost? And what does my customer's behavior drive in terms of cost? And I need to have some transparency and some logics and good methodologies around it to understand that. And we can do that with all the tribal knowledge that we have in organizations, for sure, and leveraging technology that is out there and exists today. Let's talk a little bit about pricing, right? There's a lot of pricing types out there, or types of pricing out there, right? And I want to talk about a couple of them that we have seen in the last couple of years. And number one, there's this concept of market-based pricing, or elasticity-based, or competition-driven pricing, right? A lot of times there's little or no influence of cost when you set the prices, but it's still very crucial to understand it in your aftermath, and you analyze your profitability and your margins, etc., right? So the market kind of determines it, right? If you think about this, the steel industry or metals industry is very much driven by metal indexes, right? Many other industries as well. So there's this elasticity that is driving the market, market-based pricing. And what you can do internally, you can try to control your cost to a limited amount of effort, right? The second concept or types of pricing I want to talk about is this cost plus pricing, right? Very, very commonly used. And the problem I have with cost plus pricing is everybody always seems like, oh yeah, it's kind of fair, right? You make it, I give you 10% on what it costs you to make it. Everybody's happy, right? But it's not really always fair, right? So it's perceived a lot of times as fair, but it's really not. if you think about certain examples, right? There's a lot of pressure coming now. If you think about the automotive industry, right? They're trying to put down pressure and say, hey, you need to now, every year instead of 1% cost improvement, you need to do a 3 to 5% cost improvement every year, right? And it only goes so far down and passing along this whole cost engineering efforts of how to save money. So it's getting harder and harder. And this cost plus pricing concept is commonly used, but we see a lot of companies moving away from it because everybody thinks it's fair, but if you get into the details, it's not always the most fair approach, right? And a lot of times it's also driven by just big industry leaders that are trying to just keep their pricing and cost steady, right? The next concept I want to talk about is what we call value-based pricing or science-driven pricing, right? Usually that kind of pricing type is performed by products that are very specific for a very specific customer base and based on what research or science or marketing information has found out of how much they are willing to pay, right? My favorite one is the Sonos speakers, right? There's a lot of speakers out there. I love Sonos speakers because I think they sound fantastic. There's a bunch of other speakers out there, but Sonos speakers are just a little bit more expensive because they found out, hey, if we make them look nice and make them, this high-end product, we can charge a premium for it. It's a very classic example of a value-based pricing, right? To this customer base, as I am in this case, right? I am willing to pay that little bit of extra money for the output of those speakers, right? So the reality is just going with one of these pricing types nowadays is just not good enough anymore, right? You need to consistently and continuously look at all and even more creative types of pricing to make the right pricing decision at the right time for your customers in the current environment that you operate in, right? Let's talk a little bit about simulations. I cannot stress enough, right? My recommendation is you need to start simulating, right? What do simulations do nowadays, right? You should be, at any point in time, you should be able to recalculate your costs, your quotes, your pricing with different assumptions of inputs and different variables or levers that you have in your cost or pricing calculation methodology. At any point in time, you should be able to pull these levers up or down, change it, click a button, and recalculate it almost to a new version of cost and be able to compare. So what happens if commodity prices of copper go up, right? Show me all the products that are impacted by it. And what is the difference to the cost I calculated a week ago or 3 days ago or a month ago, right? But at any point in time, you should be able to recalculate your cost, create a new version, and compare them to each other to gain more insight. And simulating nowadays it gets perceived with this logic of, hey, we're going to predict the future, right? Which I think if we are able to predict the future, we wouldn't be sitting here. We should be all sitting in Wall Street, right? And doing it. But if you think about simulations in this costing and pricing and quoting world, it's really just to give people more information, more insights to explore, analyze, and prepare for multiple paths or multiple decisions that you might have to take because of things you can't influence. The market has changed. The competitor came up with new products, right? And utilizing technology to create transparency and understanding throughout these multiple paths that you might be going on, right, will enable your organization to adapt with your C-level executives, with your finance operations, with your operations, but making sure that everybody understands, hey, this is the decision, and here's the decision that we made because of reasons A, B, C, and here's the paths that we explored, right? A very transparent culture that you create. The second thing I want to talk about in simulations is, and I touched this already, you should be able to simulate cost and pricing models at all times, right? I always say, if you think that hey, yeah, we've always done it this way, calculating your cost or calculating your profitability or calculating your pricing, then that is the most expensive sentence of your company. We've always done it this way, right? At a consistent basis and continuous basis, I'm repeating myself, you should be able to create multiple versions of cost and pricing to encourage, again, finding out what these different paths are, where can I heading, where's my sensitivity, where's my elasticity, what is my best case, worst case scenario, and leverage technology to do so. Because doing all that in as we all know, the controller's best friend, Excel, right? It's just too time consuming and a lot of times not granular enough as we need it, and people expect from us, right? The third thing I want to talk about simulating is if you are able to simulate multiple paths and tell the stories that go with these paths about risks and opportunities of your business, what will happen in your organization? You will create a culture for more data-driven decision making. So providing valuable insights to your C-level executives and saying, hey, if we do this, if we decide to shift a certain amount of volume from one plant to another, here's the impact on your business, right? That's a very valuable message, and you can back it up with data, right? The fact is, stop spending a lot of time on copy, pasting, and spreadsheets and creating them. Spend more time in analyzing risks and opportunities for your business and exploring in a creative way these multiple paths that we talked about. So tying a knot here, again, super simple, super hard. At the end of the day, what we want to do is we want to cost the right way, we want to quote and price in a smart way, and we want to simulate to steer our decision making in the right direction. Right? So what we have done at 3C Software, we created a framework where our software called Impact ECS operates. What you see on top is really 4 pillars, right? So number 1, we do a lot of work in this cost to source space, calculating all the costs of materials and resources that needed to make a certain product, right? Be it calculating your inbound land cost to raw materials, to purchase goods, considering commodities, all that good material costing stuff, doing mini MRPs, doing some modeling and simulations around subcontracting. Does it make sense to take 30% of our volume and give it to a subcontractor? What does it free up? Maybe we can start focusing more on higher margin products, right? All these are good, valuable simulations that are very valuable and provide you a lot of credibility inside the organization. We also do a lot of work in this cost to make space. So what does it truly cost you to design, manufacture, and then also quote products at the end of the day, right? So anything from manufacturing cost to managing your BOMs and routings. What does it cost me to make new products or new product market entry scenarios, dealing with all the allocations and rate buildings, doing inventory evaluations, all the way to what we sometimes call cost-based quoting, right? Building up a cost of a new product that might not exist yet, but is similar to a product that you have, but calculating a cost for a product and then saying, okay, here's what we think based on market conditions, based on competitor behaviors, we can quote this to the customer, right? But calculating your cost for your commercial purposes in the same way as you do for your financial purposes is very, very important. And a lot of times there's a big gap in between these two worlds. And I really encourage you to look inside your organization and try to close that gap. The third one is the cost to deliver area, right? How much does it cost you to move products and service your customers, right? Anything from pick, pack, load to distribution centers to warehouses to special packaging arrangements that you have with some customers, but how much does it truly cost you to serve and deliver to your customers? Big topic, as we learned in the last 5, 6, 7 years, right? A lot of volatility in there, and very fast moving market nowadays as well when it comes to logistics costs. We've been doing a tremendous amount of what if simulations there. You know, what happens if we now have to shift? We can't buy a part anymore in Asia and bring it to the US. Now we got to bring it maybe from South America, bring it to the US. What's the difference in cost? Where is it in? Where in my 150,000 product is this part being used? Right? All this kind of analysis is something that's very, very valuable to organizations nowadays. The fourth pillar is this, the concept of cost of terms and incentives. So getting an end-to-end view, what did it cost me to source the products, to make it, to deliver, to serve my customer, and then how much do these terms and incentive costs me to serve this customer, right? And then if you think about it from the start to the end, if you are quoting a new business or a new product, it just makes sense to do the same exercise from the start to the end of this value stream, right? Maybe I have a product that's 80% similar than the one I'm already making. So maybe I can already start with that bill of material and add the remaining 20% because it's specialized towards a customer, right? So I can automatically get my material, add a couple components, make sure they're sourced the right way, get some pricing. Now let's move on to making it or assembling it, right? Allocating all the cost that comes from the supportive cost areas into the production areas, then moving on to packaging and delivering it with freight to the customers. So calculating this entire value stream from the start to the end, not just for your standard cost, but for any type of cost version, be it your standard cost, be it your actual cost, be it your what if cost, your target cost, your should cost, is very, very important. And it is today easier than ever before to do it with technologies that is out there, such as Impact ECS from 3C Software. So what we want to do, I highly encourage you, is connect this costing world with the quoting world, or the finance world with the commercial world. It's very, very important. There's a big, big gap there that we see in a lot of companies. And then the other concept about business simulations that we talked about is we want to simulate in all of these areas at any point in time and move these levers that I talked about, right? So if I have some elasticity in my inbound landed cost or my raw material cost that I'm buying, I should be able to move these levers, click a button, create a new version, and see what the outcome is for all my products. If now all of a sudden I need to shift some volumes from one plant to another and I have a different routing for these products, right? Then I want to know, what does it cost me? What's the difference in cost in doing so, right? But simulating it and moving those levers in any of these areas at any point in time and recalculating your entire product cost world and see what impact does it have on my business cost and profitability is today more important than ever, right? And by the way, that's also the expectations that you are receiving from your VPs of finance, from your CFOs, right? Nobody has the answer today. Can't be, yeah, well, what if resin prices go up 5%? What is it going to do to us? The answer cannot be, oh, like, give me 2-3 days I'll figure this out, right? The expectation to you and your team is that you have a certain tool set in place to be accurate, fast, and informative about it, right? And you need to do it in a matter of minutes, not in days, right? So the expectations that we as controllers and finance professionals are getting are also steadily rising, and we need to make sure we have the right tools in place to accommodate those requests. So where to start the journey? Number one, I can only encourage you to challenge your teams. Stop accepting the term or the sentence of, we have always done it this way. All right, I cannot stress enough, don't accept it. If somebody says this is the most expensive sentence of our company, right? Continuously look at new ways of calculating costs, be creative about it, continuously look at, where are we losing margin? Is it in this are we leaking margin in the cost to source, cost to make, cost to deliver? Where are we leaking margin? All right. The next thing is make sure you get the right data to the right place, right? So integrating not just data from multiple systems. Data from multiple systems now more than ever is super, super important, and a lot of technology providers can do that in a very, very efficient way, but also integrating the tribal knowledge that already exists in your company, right? People have been in these companies for 20, 30 years, right? And there's a lot of tribal knowledge out there, and the systemization of this tribal knowledge is becoming a huge topic in organizations, making sure that successors understand fully how is the methodology of my cost, why is it this way, right? Do we need to change it? Did my business environment change? So the systemization of tribal knowledge is a huge topic nowadays, and I'm sure Gary also sees this a lot nowadays. It's something that never really gets talked about, but then only people feel it when it's already too late and somebody retired or somebody left the company and say, oh, now we are stuck with Bob's spreadsheet, right? And let's start from scratch. The third one is I encourage you to have a very dynamic product cost calculation. So as I mentioned, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to recalculate your cost at any point in time with different sets of assumptions, be it raw material prices, be it volumes and mix versions, be it new speeds on your equipment, be it cycle time changes, be it whatever. At any point in time, you should be able to pinpoint these levers that drive your cost, change them, click a button, and recalculate your cost and compare these versions against each other. Right? The fourth item, how to get started, is I encourage you to create meaningful decision-making views, right? There's a lot of, now more than ever, there's a lot of internal customers that you serve, right? Be it from operations people on the shop floor, to finance departments, to tax departments, to C-level executives, right? And the decision relevant information that these people need in their seat are vastly different, right? So creating meaningful decision-making views is a very important concept that I only encourage you to look into, and it starts with just talking to people, right? What decision are you trying to make, and then let's talk about, okay, how can we support you in your decision, right? Because the old concept of just sending reports to send reports is quickly more outdated than ever. Right, so creating meaningful decision-making views for the right audience is very, very crucial on how to get started on your cost and profitability journey. Having said that, we got about a couple more minutes, so I would love to open up for some questions, or actually what I would like to do is I would like to encourage Gary or Jerry to chime in and tell their stories and war stories. What are your thoughts and what are your experiences that you would like to share?
Well, Adrian, before I give you some of my experiences, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
What has been one or two major lessons learned by organizations attempt either successfully or unsuccessfully implementing the technology that you described here?
Yeah. So I touched on a couple of them, but I'm going to highlight one or two of them again, right? Number one is, again, you need to give your people the right tool set in order to answer the critical business questions that they have, right? You can't expect people to give them a hammer and a nail but no wood and expect them to build a house, right? So giving your team the right tool set is the starting point of enabling them answering complex cost and profitability questions that you expect out of them, right? So equipping them with the right tool set is one of the lessons I want to talk about. And the other one is, encourage your people, especially young people, to be more creative than ever in terms of thinking how we should be calculate their cost, right? So that's why I mentioned this whole concept of we've always done it this way. We've always calculated our costs this way. We always allocated our costs this way. It's not wrong, but it can be very costly, right? So what we need to do is encourage people to be more creative than ever, especially young people that are coming in and say, hey, what are your thoughts? And just ask them a question, challenge them, right? Because what I see there's a big struggle nowadays from people who are coming from universities with their MBAs, and they're showing up and they're just missing this day-to-day work experience. And they said, yeah, well, I'm just going to do what I'm told to do versus, okay, I'm going to sit down and proactively get creative in the way I think about it. Hey, does this make sense? Why not? Let's think about it, right? We're so busy with our phones and iPads and computers. I really encourage your team to sit down and think creatively. Is this the right way of doing things, or do we need to change, right?
So some of the attendees may recognize my name, Gary Kokins, C-O-K-I-N-S, and you're welcome to invite Adrian or myself on LinkedIn. But the lessons I've learned, because I've been implementing activity-based costing, which has a bad reputation from decades ago, which totally undeserved. What happened decades ago is the models they started as models and then evolved into systems, were too large, too complex. No one could understand them. They collapsed under their own weight, and the issue here is, there's a difference between statutory external financial accounting for government regulatory agencies like the SEC and internal management accounting. And the accountants love precision, so they make these models so large, so complex, that they don't work or no one understands them, and then they're not easily maintainable. We'll get to that in my next question, but the lesson I've learned is we underestimate the magnitude of resistance to change. It's human nature. And so, for example, some of the employees or the management teams, they don't want others to know the truth. Oh, I don't want anybody to know what my costs are. Oh, I had an example of one of my clients was a bakery where the product manager, the most profitable product using the traditional overhead butter spreading approach, he had the Danishes and the which had a lot of jellies and sugar, and he saw that by building the ABC model that his product was going to cost a lot more because pan cleaning and oven getting cleaned out compared to the other product manager with bread. The bread was simple. And this guy went to the CEO and said, what are we doing this activity-based costing for? We should be doing TQM, total quality management, So we got kicked out because of that. 2 weeks later, we were back because the CEO realized the reason I brought you in is because I wanted to know, where do we make money and where do we lose money? So there's an example. There's an example of a product manager who cared much more about himself than he did about the success of his company. But other obstacles, fear of knowing the truth, fear of being measured, fear of being held accountable, these really get in the way, and they all involve behavioral change management skills. You need soft skills in addition to the hard skills to construct and design. The way I approach it is I say, look, everybody tends to be accountants are Newtonians, like Isaac Newton, the physicist. To us, the world's a big machine. Give me the levers, the pulleys, dials. You need to be somewhat Darwinian, like Charles Darwin. Your organization's an organism, sense and respond. So let me fire another question to you. Let's talk about accuracy. How significant is it to have perfect accuracy or reasonable accuracy?
I think there's two sides of it. Number one, what's the expectation of accuracy? Right, the expectation of accuracy is, I think, super, super high. Right, they can say, "Oh yeah, we have all these systems. We should be super accurate." Right, and a lot of executives don't even know how accurate can we actually be in reality. Right, again, with our little toolkit that we have. Right, think the expectation, there's a big gap between the expectations of accuracy, what the actual reality is of accuracy, and then in the middle of, what is the real valuable accuracy that we need to be at to make decisions in the same way as it would be 100% accurate, right? So I think that there's these three concepts of accuracy that I talk to my clients about. Is, say, hey, well, if a CFO asks you, say, well, how accurate are your product costs? Are you going to tell them, what is your answer going to be? 100%, right? And I tell you, I've never had anybody say, "Yeah, it's 100% correct."
So hey, this
Right.
is Jerry from the Society of Cost Engineers. So I'm just going to chime in for 1 second. My personal, or what I espouse to, is accuracy is kind of a misnomer. It's the wrong word. Accuracy, by definition, means how close are you to the known, the absolute correct answer. And in most costings, there is no exact perfect answer. I think precision is probably a better word. How precise are you, right? So that's what I always do when people ask me, and the different softwares I represent, is how accurate are they? You're as accurate as the inputs. Precision is more the question you're trying to ask, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Jerry,
I'll give you an example about this, Jerry. Right. One of our clients, they were doing some 18-month rolling forecasts, right? And basically what they were saying is, hey, here's how my raw materials price are expected to change, and they grouped them all up into these categories that they had. Hey, we're going to make cans and bottles, and basically the big consolidated product groups, consolidated them up, and it's like, yeah, there's roughly 10% of this raw material in there, and then 12% of this raw material in there, and then I had this big Excel spreadsheet, and they said, yeah, this is super accurate. We're 98% accurate in terms of forecasting 18 months forward our raw material prices, right? And it's like, yeah, you might think so, but what would happen if you would be more precise to your word, right?
Yeah.
And now go and now simulate every single bill of material for every product that is in this product group, and then consolidate it up again. And how far are you, right? If you want to do the real test, let's stress test it and do the real test, right? And that's what I try to tell them. It's like, look, there are tools out there nowadays. It's what you're doing for your purpose is fine, right?
Yep.
And you might not, you don't think you need to be as precise, because in the past it's always been the truth, right? But now if you get creative in your thinking, and there's technology that you can leverage, and doing it from the ground up, why not do it and see what's more accurate? And then compare it even to what has happened in the last 1-2 months and how did it behave, right?
Absolutely. And if there's a change in your assumptions, are you still accurate? The next tsunami comes and you can't get your material, it's going to cost you more. Your model doesn't account for that. Are you still accurate? To me, the precise is the right. And then one other thing, I really love that you bring in the challenging of, that's the way we've always done it. One of the sayings I like to use is, if you keep doing what you've always done, you're going to get the same results you always had. You need to make changes. If you want to see changes, you need to make changes. So very, very, very supportive of that statement.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Back to this precision and accuracy, the rule I've always followed is the level and degree of accuracy and precision depends on the kind of decision you're going to make. And not all decisions, require 100% accuracy. I was fortunate earlier in my career. I got recruited to KPMG when they contracted with Harvard Business School professor Robert S. Kaplan, and many will recognize Kaplan's name as kind of like the inventor of activity-based costing. He didn't invent it; he just researched it. It's just really full absorption costing done correctly, rather than violating the principle of causality, because, you know, the real problem in the room here is overhead being spread like butter, like on labor hours or units produced or square feet or number of employees, you know, totally flawed and misleading when you do what you're talking about in your tool, which is, well, let's create individual cost pools in the indirect and trace and assign them with a cause and effect relationship. But Kaplan always, and then after that, I wound up writing many books, including activity-based costing books, as you know, Adrian. But Kaplan had a great phrase. He said, it's better to be approximately correct than precisely inaccurate. You know, it's better to be roughly right than exactly wrong. And in manufacturing, some CFOs worry about the burden rate of their machines 5 digits to the right of the decimal point when the error is 2 digits on the left side, you know, when you do it, you know, correctly. Yeah, it's pretty pathetic.
No, absolutely. And I mean, I think, Gary, you agree with me. The technology that exists today, I mean, it's not even comparable to technology that existed, you know, 10, 15, 20 years ago, and how fast you can do it, how precisely you can do it, right? And I think that if you leverage technology the right way, you shift your pyramid of how you spend your valuable time, right? So instead of spending 85% of organizing data and copy and pasting data and getting all the data together from the right people. Now imagine if you could spend 85% of your time analyzing potential threats and opportunities for your company. Now that to me is a true value add and what you should get paid for as, you know, an analyst, a controller, and, you know, a finance person is, you know, analyzing this. What does it actually mean, right? Tell me the story, right?
Well, I like that you brought in the customer profitability measurement, and this is sort of relates back to that precision and accuracy. You know, the question that sales and marketing is asking and should be asking is, what types of customers are more attractive to retain, to grow, to win back and acquire, and which types are not? And most CFOs and accountants, even if they're using ABC, they're stopping halfway on the income statement at just the product or service line gross profit margin. You've got to bring in sales distribution channel, marketing expenses, customer or sales expenses, cost to serve expenses. And it's always pretty shocking when people do go for customer profitability, because they may discover that their largest customer in sales is actually marginally profitable or unprofitable. And when they look at it, it's like, why? Well, look at our big customers. They're constantly demanding things, always changing delivery schedule, never buying standard, always special, always calling help desk, always returning goods. You know, when you bring those things in, you realize they're not as profitable. And then you've got these other ones, medium sales, is like, oh, they're not that important. Yeah, but they only buy standard. They never call help desk. They never return goods. They never change delivery schedule. By the time you look at that, you go, this is but back to the sales and marketing, they cannot answer that question, which type of customer is more attractive to retain, grow, win back, and acquire, unless the CFO and the accountants are providing that type of information. But most of them are not. You know, I'm old enough, and actually, I don't really care anymore what people think of me. But I think CFOs and accountants are in the 1970s. How do we get them into the 21st century? Professor Kaplan in the 1970s wrote, I think, the breakthrough book, Relevance Lost, the decline of, you know, management accounting. It's where he basically described activity-based costing as a superior, you know, method. But even 40 years later, we still have, I've got some empirical evidence that 95% of companies still allocate overhead on spreading butter across bread rather than being, you know, precise. So I appreciate you brought in the customer profitability idea.
So Gary, what you just described is the topic or the header of this webinar, which is the cost of not costing right. Right. Yes. I mean, we have so many examples from it, right? Yeah, we have a food processor. We're very big in food processing industry, right? And they say, oh yeah, we have this. KFC is our biggest customer, right? It's our biggest. They're a great customer. They've been a customer for 20 years, right? And all of a sudden, what happened is, you know, any KFC that's opening now, they don't have a refrigeration room anymore. The buildings get smaller. They got one refrigerator, So now I got to deliver 5 times versus once a week, right? And again, nobody wants to hear it. Everyone says, "Oh, it's our biggest, best customer." In reality, your cost of not costing right makes it one of the worst customers, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely. No, absolutely. How do we get people, how do we get people moving? You know, one way to overcome that resistance to change is by asking better questions. And, you know, my belief is in the absence of facts, anybody's opinion is a good one. I'll repeat that. In the absence of facts, anybody's opinion is a good one. But usually the biggest opinion wins, which is the opinion of the boss or the boss of the boss. So to the degree
yeah,
you're making decisions on gut feel or intuition or their so-called sixth sense or flawed and misleading costing information, which you get from the butter spreading, the organization's at risk. And let's look at the past. Toys R Us, Best Bath and Beyond, so many recent bankruptcies. And I wonder whether they're bankrupt because the accountants were providing misleading and misleading information, and they were making decisions on it, pricing things the wrong way. The cost plus, that was a great message that you had, Uri. When you do cost plus, as in contrast to target costing, you know, your competitors who are more maybe savvy, more skilled, they may price 5, 2, 3, 4, 5% below you. So they're grabbing market share that could have been yours, you know. And then you've got this other problem because some of the products are overcosted, some of the others undercosted when you do the butter spreading. The sales force is under the impression that some of these products are the most profitable. So we sell more and more and more. But in reality, when you do the tool that you described, they're actually unprofitable. So the more that the sales is selling, the greater the company's losing money, and no one can explain why. It's like a
yeah,
trap.
it's fascinating. Yeah, no. So Gary, I appreciate it. I think you just defined our next webinar for you and me is the gut versus data-driven decision making. I actually have done quite some research on that, and I'll email you separate about that. But yeah,
Cool.
it's a very, very interesting topic. It's very close to my heart.
So thanks. So on behalf of the Society of Cost Engineers, thanks to Gary and thanks to Adrian for a great webinar. The video will be posted on the Society of Cost Engineers webpage. It's www.societyofcostengineers.com. I'm sure Adrian, you'll be posting it on 3C probably as well. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, want to reach out to either Gary, Adrian, or myself, please feel free. Adrian's information is on the screen. Thanks a lot. And I hope everybody has a great day.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Jerry. Bye.
Thank you.